Welcome to the Verkos Show. Today's guest is Ginger Cressman. Hi, Ginger.
Hello.
How are you, beautiful?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to talk to you. You have no idea.
Oh, so am I. Trust me, I think our energies are off the Richter scale at the moment, but that's all good. It's all full of love and joy and happiness, which is great. Also, thank you. I really appreciate it because I know you have a busy schedule and you just finished attending a Christian festival, which you were just telling me. How amazing is that?
Oh, yes. It was so good to be around Christians in film. It was very encouraging and uplifting. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. Also, you were telling me your father growing up was a pastor. Do you want to take us down that road of growing up being a pastor's daughter?
Sure, absolutely. So when I was around 5, I think my dad became a pastor. And so I live in Alabama in the United States right now. We lived in Tennessee at the time. So we were in a small town and we moved to the parsonage, which was the little house that belonged to the church next to the church. So I could just run across the gravel that we had over to the church when it was time for church and everything. And, but my experience as a pastor's daughter was really positive. And, I enjoyed it. I loved church. We had a small, close-knit church family. And we had it was a small church, but it was good. I had a good foundation that my dad built. And it was really cool being able to have, your dad be somebody who could talk to you about spiritual things or the Bible or that kind of thing. So it was nice for me.
That's good because it's always like this is what I've learned through my experience. Like you could go to church, but there's a difference between going to church and understanding why you're going to church and understanding a relationship that you have with the Lord God. So that's the difference I found because growing up as Greek Orthodox, I didn't know what the priests were saying. It was all Greek to me. The Bibles were Greek. I don't know how to read or write Greek. So I didn't understand. All I knew was I had to go to church Easter, I had to fast, but I didn't know the reason behind it all until I tuned in and tapped in that I had to realize it was our relationship with God. And you were blessed that your dad was preaching that to you too, because we were talking about it, how he taught that it's a relationship with God, which is fantastic because a lot of churches don't teach that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when he was growing up, he went to a church that he heard the Bible in another language too, and like you said, so he never really understood what they were saying either. And he always told the story too of when he was young. He remembered himself just opening up the Bible to some random passage, and it was something in the Old Testament where God was punishing some people for something. And so at the time he closed the Bible and said, well, that's all I want to do with that. And then he went on and just lived his life apart from God after that. And then I can tell you a little bit of his backstory too, of how he became a Christian. So he married my mom, who was raised in the church, and she had been a Christian pretty much her whole life. And they got married. So when they were both 19, and she had been praying for him for years. And when he was in his 30s, he said that he was outside at his house, and a pastor stopped by. And he, kind of wanted to hide because he wants to go out and talk to the pastor that's coming to visit when you're not a Christian. So, but he didn't. He went out and he talked to him, and he told this story how he remembers that that pastor pointed up at the sky. They lived by a lake, and there were like stars everywhere. And he said, how can something like that how can people believe that there's no God when you just see something as amazing as that? And it was just a small seed that was planted, but it led to later on him accepting Christ as well. So that's just part of his backstory that I love. So it's just little seeds that people plant. You never know.
Is that true? Like you said, you never know. It takes is someone to say something and it can change your whole life around. I know years ago someone said to me, they always saw me upset, always crying, I wasn't happy, and they could see it. And I was in a relationship at that time where they could see it was all trouble. I was always unhappy. And they they stopped by, and I remember being at work and I was at the office desk and they said to me, have you ever heard of the saying, ask and you shall receive? And I'm like going, what's that? Then and that's when I realized, and that's, yeah, how the journey I started. It's just like the little, like even people say now, which I've noticed, it's even sharing little verses of the Bible, just walking past someone if they say something and it just, at that moment, you're just inspired to say something,
Yes.
take it away, could change and impact their whole life. And their journey starts with the relationship with God, you know?
Yes, that's exactly right. And you never know. And they may never know that that little thing that they said
Yeah.
impacted the whole rest of your life. And then you know, the pastor that said that to my dad, he doesn't know that my dad's been using that as part of his story for years. And then here I am telling you, you know,
Oh,
we just don't know what stuck with somebody else that we may have said, or things that stuck with us. Other people don't realize that it was such a big part of changing our whole life. So it's
and
pretty cool.
it's funny how God works to enlighten us and through us, through all of us, through all his children. He's just empowering. It goes to show that if anyone can't see that, well, then I don't know what more to say. Seriously, it's so
Right.
it's so powerful. It's undeniable.
Yes, yes. I mean, it really is. And I think sometimes though people get so hurt over time that they're that they don't want to see it, and it takes some smoothing away and cleaning off of that old stuff that's caked on there for you to even, I think, be able to see it or to hear it for what it is. Because if you've been through enough things, it's kind of, it's harder to see, because that's the thing that's sort of blocking you. You've got all these other things weighing you down, and then the more seeds that are planted, though, eventually, hopefully, we can see a little bit better.
Yeah, because even though you grew up in the church too, you've had your little bit of trials and tribulations too. You were telling me, do you want to tell us how you sort of not lost faith? Because I believe you always had faith, but you're probably just putting it aside for a little while. Do you want to tell us a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah, of when that happened?
Sure. So, I always believed in God. I just sort of grew up. I always knew that God was there because I knew him from a young age, and I'd had that good example. And I did have my own walk with God as a kid and as a teenager. But of course, as many of us do, as we become independent of our parents and their guidance. So I went to college and pretty much made a conscious decision. I'm going to just say that's really what it was, to just do all the things I hadn't done, I guess, and make all the choices that were stupid. And so I really got myself, that's just being honest, I really got myself pretty separated from God. I drank a lot. I would be drunk pretty much, and I haven't told this that much, by the way, but pretty much every day. And I would party all the time and all the things that go with it.
Yeah.
But I remember even then going and I might be drunk and I would still say some prayer to God, because that's what I had always done, even though I knew that I was doing all the things that, he didn't approve of or whatever. I still always had that in there. But
Okay.
so as I went over time and got further and further away from God, farther away from Him, I started to get, and I was in some bad relationships too that I definitely should not have been in. That really wore me and my self esteem totally down. So I went through a time where I got extremely depressed and extremely anxious, and I mean it was so bad that I just remember sitting. I remember the first time I had sort of like a panic attack or something. I remember I was sitting in the cafeteria with all my friends, and all of a sudden I just had this horrible feeling that something was wrong, and I needed to get out. I needed to get away because it was just this terrible feeling. And so I started having different episodes of that type thing happening, and it was very scary because I'd never dealt with anything like that.
What?
And so I got very depressed as well. And I remember distinctly walking around the store with my mom, and there was this outfit in there that I'd wanted some other day, and she was trying to cheer me up. And so she goes, why don't you go look at that dress you wanted or whatever it was. And I just remember I couldn't care. My emotions were just gone. All I could feel was sad. I could not feel happy. I could not feel excited. Like it wasn't a thing that was possible for me. And I just remember thinking, how could I have ever even cared about that? And I remember looking at her later on that day and saying, I just want to die. And I meant it. And I'm sure that broke her heart to pieces looking back at having said that. But that was how broken that I really was. And it was a scary time. I remember thinking, one day when I get married, how am I even going to walk down the aisle? That's how high my anxiety was. I would just look so far into the future and wonder how I would be able to function as a normal human being without going through that stuff. And so that really broke me down, as it will a person. And sometimes I was blessed that I had people in my life who helped me get through that. And I try to keep that in mind for other people that I know, because really there was only a couple of friends and my dad who had been strong Christian. They'd been strong in God despite all the things that I'd been doing. They didn't leave me. Sometimes when we see other Christians struggling, we judge them and leave them there to their own mess. But these good people, my dad and my couple of friends, I would call them and tell them, I need help. But I remember I just had to get down on my knees and tell God, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And I had multiple instances of just running back to my room as soon as I was done with my classes, getting on my knees and saying, oh God, I am so sorry. Can you please help me? And he lifted me back up, hallelujah, out of that terrible, terrible place. And I was okay again. It took a long time for those emotions, just the stuff that I brought on myself. It took a long time for that to heal, though, because it's like it causes physical damage to you, sort of, I guess.
And it's a journey. It's a healing journey. That's what I found, because I've gone through so much, I don't even know where to start. And I found that the healing journey is a slow journey, but it's releasing. Because don't forget, like every time you drank, they say because spirits are a spirit entering your body, an entity that's entering your body, that's throwing you off the consciousness of God, that who we are. So they reckon every time you drink alcohol, you're allowing about 6 or 7 spirits to enter, or I think it's 7 spirits to enter your body. So imagine what it's done. And all that is healing and cleansing and cleaning and prayer,
Yes, absolutely. And it took a lot of years of just different moments of feeling that anxiety creep back up before now I'm finally at a good place where it is extremely rare for me to have any of that stuff pop back up. So I try to encourage other people when I see them, because a lot of people deal with anxiety and depression. Sometimes it's a chemical thing and you do need medicine and whatnot, and that's a different thing too, but it is a thing that's possible to grow past. And it is possible, if anybody ever watches this and your emotions are broken and you understand what I'm talking about not being able to feel anything, you actually can grow, or whatever, those emotions back. They actually can come back. I feel like happy right now.
But you actually look at too, and your essence and your presence, I feel it. Because I've been down that road too, where I wanted to commit suicide 3 times in my life. So I hear you and I feel you, and I've been on that journey and that path. And it took me, to be honest with you, to actually read the Bible. I started about 3 months ago. So 3-4 months ago, since I've moved in here, I started reading. I turned my faith around last year, born again last year. And then I started getting into the word this year when I settled in here. So I'm a living proof of what we all are going through and how we seek him, because I had nowhere to go to, no one to turn to. I hit rock bottom and I thought, I've got no one. What do I do? And I just reached out to him, and that's when my life started changing after that. So there always is hope. There's always, but you have to really believe, and trust in him as well, and really surrender and give it to him as well. so you can be where you are today. And that's that big undeniable love, that undeniable trust, that undeniable knowing that, you know what, he's going to take care of me. It's okay. You're really, really letting go of everything and leaving it in his hands. And you even ask him into your life so he can take the lead as well. This is what I'm doing now.
Yes, that is so awesome. That's exactly so similar to my story. And you have a good point, because sometimes people may not have a single person even to pull them up, but if we reach out to God, he's the one that we need, even if we don't have anybody else. And sometimes we don't have anybody else. So it's a good point.
So what happened? How did you get into acting?
Yeah, so there was that. I started off, I did modeling when I was a teenager. And how did I even get into that? We had a fashion club at school that I joined in high school. And I met a photographer that way, and he goes, "Have you ever modeled before?" And I'm like, "No." But then I got into that. And from there, I did like a music video and commercial. And and I was in a high school play. And so I set all that down aside for a while, and I went to school to be an elementary school teacher. And I did that for 5 years on and off. I also I married and have 2 kids along the way. So there was a so there's a whole lot. Go ahead.
How old are your kids now? Is it girl, boy, girl, boy,
I
girls,
have
boy?
I have a 10-year-old girl and a 5-year-old boy.
Oh, how cute.
Yes, those are my babies.
How cute. I didn't know. Oh my gosh.
Yes, I do. I don't share pictures of them online just for safety's sake, but I do have 2 wonderful kids.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's why probably I didn't know, because I haven't seen any pictures, but yeah, they're a joy. Good on you. That was fantastic. And are you bringing them up in a different way, knowing what you know now, what you've gone through?
Yeah, I do. It's interesting to me. It's this day and age is so tough to even raise kids at all. And I try to walk that fine line, which I'm sure all parents do, between not wanting your kids to be naive, but at the same time, keeping them a little bit safe from all the things that are out there. So it is tough. We do raise them talking about God and knowing about God, and just trying to keep life open so that if they ever need to talk to us, they can, which it's hard to talk to your parents about anything, in my opinion, anyways, but we'll be there for them if they need us always.
Yeah, because I've got a tough role at the moment, bringing up kids in this world.
Yeah. So, but I taught on and off for 5 years, and then I really just started getting it back in my heart that I wanted to act so bad, and I wanted to be in faith-based films was the main thing that drew me into it. Just the idea of that. And then I found out that they were filming. Well, I had talked to my husband about potentially moving back to Nashville, because I had been with an agency there who is a Christian-based agency. And but then we weren't really going to do it. But I just had it on my heart so bad. What is it? What can I do? How can this happen? And we talked to God. We prayed about it. And I remember my husband goes, "Well, Lord, let it be," or something like that. And then we found out that they were filming the movie Jesus Revolution, just 10 minutes from my house. Yes. And I'm going, "Oh, God, are you serious?"
I can't make stuff up. Seriously.
I know.
Jesus Revolution. Oh my God. No, I love it. How it works is amazing. It's mind blowing.
Exactly. I know. And so I'm going, "Oh, Lord, you're kidding me." So I so I found out how to sign up to be an extra, because I'd never been in a movie or anything. And so I went through that process, and ended up being able to be cast as one of the deacon's wives, which was like a featured extra thing. And I enjoyed it so much that I have not stopped barely for a day since then. I love being on set. I love the people that I meet, and I love faith-based film. I'm in secular films as well. I just love people, and I just love the industry. So it's been so cool. The thing, you really cannot, like you said, you really cannot make up the things that God does and the way that he does it.
You can't have expectations. You can't even try and make up in your mind or try in your mind how it's going to happen, because no. He delivers the way he wants to deliver. So it's going to be totally different to what you could ever expect, and it's always better. That's what I've realized.
Yes, that is so true. And I'm going, okay, God, you're the only reason that any of this stuff is happening. And I
Oh,
try to.
over. I love his way. I go, have your will over me any day. Your will's better than mine, I say.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. And we can't create his way of doing it. We couldn't. And I try to pray over every job. Open the door if you want it. And we talked about this a little bit before, but open the door wide if you want me to go through it, and please close it and lock it if you don't want me to go through it, because sometimes we can't really tell. Should we do this? Should we not do this? And so that's a prayer that I pray pretty often.
And I believe praying is the most powerful thing that we can do, especially at this present moment, even more so. And even fasting. I don't know if you're into fasting. Do you do fasting at all?
Yes, I have done that here and there, and there's definitely a richness that comes from fasting, and just a closeness with God that really that you can't that I have personally that I don't feel at other times. There is definitely a richness in there when you get into that level. Maybe it's just the fact that you're willing to sacrifice something and just to listen to what he has to say or whatever it is. I have, and it does make a difference.
It's amazing. It just the whole, like, I don't think people realize until they start this journey with him how your life transforms and changes in a way that is unexplainable, and you're more freer, you're more carefree. I feel you're more lighter. You're more just pretty much living in the moment, in this present moment, and what he's going to represent to you in this moment. And like you even said, like, you ask him, is this the road I'm meant to take? I mean, that's all you've got to do, is just ask him in anything and everything. Like every second, every minute, every hour of every day, you can ask him. He's always going to be there, even for the small things and the big things, and for everything really. So that's how the relationship is. And he always listens and he always responds. Sometimes it might be straight away, sometimes it might not be. It might take a while. But that's, again, drop expectations, drop them and let him lead, And that's something a lot of people don't want to let go of because of that control. So
Yes, I saw an illustration one time. I've tried so hard to find it again, but it was in a sermon that a pastor did, where a lot of times we are wanting so bad to know, God, what is your plan for me? What do you want me to do? And we don't know the exact path. And a lot of us get stuck, I think, trying to figure out the exact thing that it is that God has for us. And in this illustration, it was sort of like, okay, we think that God's going to stand in front of us and say, come here, and we're going to go straight to him, and it's going to be obvious what we need to do. But in the illustration, the pastor was standing behind this. Well, he was using his son. So the pastor was standing behind his son, and the pastor was being sort of like being God, and his son was just the person. So God was saying, okay, now walk. And so he wasn't telling him where to go, but he was saying walk. And so he would walk. And then if he started to veer off path, he would say, no, not that way, go this other way. And so it was like, okay, keep walking. Okay, now go to the right. He was telling him as he went along the directions that he had for him. And he would tell him, okay, not that way. Let's go this way now. And so turn to the left. So that's when he was going to go, because he doesn't lay out right in front of us the exact path. But as we go, if we listen and we hear him, then he's going to tell us. We just have to trust him. We just can't know all the things.
it's like me with my show, changing it to a faith-based show. I had to step out of that equation. I thought, okay, God, where am I leading this? Where am I going? I just feel some sort of disconnect with my show. I don't know what it is. And then I said, you know what? I leave it in your hands. If I'm meant to continue my show, well, then so be it. If I'm not, take it away from me. And I had a week off. I remember I had no guests. I had nothing. I had like people lined up, but I sort of like, I just didn't contact. I just left. I thought, no, it's not timing for it. Then after a week, Karim, which I interviewed too, he sent me a friend request to this lady to become friends with. And lo and behold, I didn't know she was so into her faith. And then I realised when I looked her up and saw the information, and Karim goes, trust me, going to get along with her. She believes and she's got so much faith. And when I heard that, I go, oh my gosh, now I know. Okay, let's continue as a faith-based show. So that's how he led me, because I was uncomfortable doing what I was doing, because I actually interviewed someone that was on my show that was a Freemason, which I totally freaked out, because being where I am, that and not telling you prior and then telling you on the show when you're interviewing them, it was like, oh wow. Thought, I'm not going down the right path. And that was I think God just saying, wake up, what do you want to do? Is this the road you want to go down? So that's when I had to wake up, and that's when I got confusion. And God is not a God of confusion if you trust in him and open up to him and ask him to guide you and show you the path. And that's what I did. I had to step right out of the equation. And that's just one example of, I could say that, showing how God worked in my life, even with my show. So now I just, more than ever, I always ask him with everything. And it just makes my life so much easier.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Also, I want to ask you, what's the biggest aha moment you've had with God?
Hmm. I don't know. Give me give me an example for you. Maybe that'll help.
I'll give you an example. All right. I hit rock bottom. I was down to my last $30. Didn't know what to do. And I had faith, but I didn't have a relationship. So I had faith in him. And I remember lying down, and I had my dog in my bed at that time. And I sort of fell asleep, but I didn't. Does it make sense? Like sort of in a meditating state. And I had like a big ball of light come from the window and hit me in my stomach. And I jolted. The dog jolted. And I go, okay, and I knew it was him, because it wasn't harsh. It was just like that, like a sort of push, like to say, I'm here, sort of thing. I go, okay, what? Okay. I said, I haven't fallen asleep. I go, I'm awake, I said. And lo and behold, no word of a lie, I heard his voice saying, I am here. That was it. I was like, wow. Like, and then my life changed the next day. He led me to doing this and that, to get out of the situation, sell my stuff, sell my car, downsize, and then my whole life started turning and getting up and running again. But that moment was like, yeah, my biggest, I'd say. Oh, there's a few more, but yeah, that was a very impacting moment in my life.
Oh, wow. That is so awesome. So, I feel like a lot of my moments have been maybe just smaller moments of realizations along the way. And just little encouraging things that God's done that's just let me know that he's there all the time through the different things that I've gone through. And I've just learned, that even when we don't feel necessarily like he's there, we don't necessarily feel his presence, or maybe we're not going through a good time, that really he's still there with us. And something that you made me think of, though, whenever I was teaching elementary school, a lot of things are hard, and I would feel like, I'm not really qualified to do this, or I'm not good enough, or I don't know, I'm not this or that or the other, and we can feel that in a lot of fields. And so I had this index card, and I wrote on it in Sharpie, I just wrote I am, and I tacked it up to the bulletin board next to my desk so that I could remember that, okay, I'm not all of those things, I'm not, but I look at that and I remember that God is, and because he gives me that strength, he is, I am, and so I look at that, because he is, okay, I can do this because he can do these things through me. And that was just a daily encouragement kind of for myself, I guess, but it was something that I got out of his word, and that just helped me on just a normal, regular day-to-day basis.
Yeah, but it's funny, look at my experience. I told you about the I am, and then
Yes.
you can't make stuff up.
I know, that was what made me think of that when you said that. I was like, well, I've got a connection to that, to I am too.
This is the moments I love, and I think his presence is just showing up,
Yes, yes.
He's amazing. And also, you said something about the thing that you've got, the little plaque on the back of your wall. You were going to mention something about that.
Oh, yes. I didn't know if the words show up backwards on that, or if it's turned the right way, but it says, to God be the glory. And I put that on a lot of the things that I post online, and I have that as my little tagline on my page. In memory of my mom, she passed away. It's just been 2 years this month,
Oh,
and that's something else that God has been with me through, and it's hard. And you don't. A lot of times when people die and they were a Christian, their family was Christian. Sometimes I just feel like there's still, there's still hope. But I look at people and I think, well, you're way more upbeat than I was able to be. I was like crying for days and months actually. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So to God be the glory. She was an artist, and she used to paint these beautiful, beautiful pictures, these landscapes. And she, at one point along the way, decided to stop signing her name at the bottom. She always signed her paintings to God be the glory. And so when anybody looked at it, it didn't even have any recognition for her own self on there. It was all just to God be the glory at the bottom. And I try to
selfless,
keep that in mind.
selfless woman, selfless.
Yes. Oh, the most selfless. Yes.
Oh
So
my,
I try to apply that to my acting and everything, because it is such a me industry, so much about yourself, because you have to self promote all the time.
yeah,
And that is part of it. But you have to remember that behind all that, it's really for God. Everything that we do is just for him. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be able to do this stuff. And maybe we would, but it would be meaningless.
but that's why you're put in a position and God's chosen you to do what you do, to be the light unto the dark. That's what I believe in situations like this, because we're choosing to go on a different path to be creators and to put ourselves out there, but we're doing it through him in a different way. Do you know what I mean? And you're conscious of that, which is fantastic. A lot of people, a lot of them aren't. I think they get caught up in that world, which is very easy to get caught up. Before
Very.
you could just be in it and you don't even realize you're in it. That's the path I was realizing I was going down. And I remember when they said to me last year to have a deal overseas with my show, and that was when COVID was in and everything. And they said, Anastasia, can't come to America, no shot, no show. And I'm not vaccinated. And I had to lose, or I did lose everything. And I had to make that decision that I said, no, I'm going to be true to God. And I know, God, you're going to take me on another path. It's my choice, my body. I don't want to do that injection. And I'm believing you that you're going to help me and guide me on the path that I'm meant to be. And that was a big decision because I lost everything at that moment.
Mm.
Said, no, I'm not doing it. So, and then he's redirected me down a different path, which is even more beautiful, knowing now that I didn't even know that they had faith-based agencies. I didn't know they had faith-based production companies out. I'm learning this all now since I've changed my perspective too. So, and I thank God that he didn't take me that path. And I go, now I know why you did it. And I said, I'm grateful you protected me. As your child, you protected me. You knew that if I went down there, I was probably naive. I didn't know him like I know him now. I could have been easily caught up in the fame, the fortune, the contacts, the everything, and not knowing. Where now I'm smarter and wiser because he's in me and I'm in him. And I'm
Yes.
so, yeah.
Yes, I love that so much. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I love it.
Yeah, so you can relate to what I'm saying. But anyway, I won't keep you much longer. Now that I know you've got kids too, God bless you.
So,
And your husband. I just want to know if you had a message to give out to all the viewers there today, what would that message be?
it would really be that God has a specific purpose for you. And each one of us, there are so many of us, each and every one of us has our own purpose that God has designed for us. So don't spend too much time looking at other people and worrying about what they're doing and wondering why you're not getting the things that they're getting or doing the things that they're doing. Keep your eyes on God, because he'll show you what he has for you as you go along. And all of these little pieces and all of these little things that we do can fit together perfectly when we're following God and looking into what he has for us. And to the viewers out there who don't know God, because there's plenty of those, that's okay. That's okay. He still loves you. He's not against you. He's for you. And he's just there waiting patiently for you. And it's okay to even privately talk to God and say a little prayer. You don't have to announce to the world that's what you're doing, or, to get out your Bible and see maybe there's something to this. I know a lot of us have been hurt by churches and Christians, and so we're very turned off by that, and I hate that, and I'm very sorry on behalf of everybody, all Christians everywhere, for that. But God loves you. He really does, and He's got some good things for you.
Of course he does. He loves unconditionally. He loves greater and beyond our comprehension.
Yep, exactly. He is good.
Of course he is. God bless you. Thank you so much for today. Love you heaps. Have a blessed weekend, and we'll stay in contact anyway.
It sounds so good. Thank you so much for talking with me. I really, really enjoyed it.
Love you. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.